Welcome to this session of the summary of from the 4th to the 6th Adhayaya of Sri Bhagavad Geeta. We start with our gratitude to the Lord, with whose grace everything is possible. We pray to this Guru Parampara, through which this knowledge is preserved, protected and passed on for generations so that it is available to us. I pay my respects to my Guruji, Vijay Guruma, with whose grace I am able to learn the scriptures and I am able to share this understanding with you. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Taravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So the last session we saw was a summary of the first, second and the third Adhyaya. In the first Adhyaya, we saw that Arjuna is the Adhikari for the Jnana, is a candidate, is eligible for this self-knowledge which Bhagavan Shri Krishna is going to give him in the second Adhyaya. And this is because though he has a Jnana, because Ajnana is the root for all the moha that we develop, dukkha, samsara, for all this, but Adhikaritva means that he knows what is dharma, what is adharma. He has a faith in the Lord, in the scriptures, in Shastra, as well as Paramatma, and he is desirous to know the Akarta Swarupa of his own self. And in the second Adhyaya, Lord Krishna gives him the Atma Tattva Updesha, Brahma Jnana, and then he talks about Karma Yoga, and finally in the end he talks about the Sthiti of the person who is in Sthita Prajna. And the third Adhyaya we saw that it was a more detailed description of Karma Yoga with its several attitudes. And finally now, in the fourth Adhyaya, Lord Krishna, it is called the Jnana Karma Sannyasa. So he talks about Karma, he talks about Jnana, and how with this Jnana we can understand our Akarta or Akarma Swarupa, our own Akarta Swarupa. So that is the main subject matter of the fourth Adhyaya. In the third Adhyaya we saw the different attitudes of Karma Yoga, like acceptance of this higher power, surrender to this power, surrender to Ishvara, to do our work with utmost devotion to please the Lord as if it is a God's order, and to do this work as an instrument, nimitta matra, as if God is doing it through me. I am just the medium through which all this is happening, and to do it as our kartavya, our duty, playing several roles in our life, and accepting the karma phala as prasada. That's a prasada would be not to have too much of obsession or duragra for the karma phala, but to accept it as Ishvara's prasada and to share with everyone. In the fourth Adhyaya, the first 18 shlokas talk about the Yoga Parampara and Ishvara Tattva and his Avtara. Also talks about the Nishkam Karma and Karma Yoga. And then Lord Krishna describes the actions of the yogi, what kind of karma that yogi has to do or he needs to do or does not need to do, and their virtues. And then he talks about the 12 yagnas, the yagna buddhi. He finally says the jnana yagna, the knowledge yagna is the best of all. And then finally in the last 8 shlokas he describes the benefits of this atma jnana, how it helps us in our life. So let's start with the first shloka, where Lord starts with the Vidya Parampara, the knowledge tradition, the Yoga Parampara, which he says starts with the God, and how it has started. He says, Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavanaham Avyayam. This imperishable eternal knowledge, the Yoga knowledge that I am giving you now, Atma Jnana, Brahma Jnana, this I gave, he says, Vivaswan Manave Praha. I gave it first to Vivasvata. Vivasvata is the sun. So before the birth of the world, I gave it to the sun, and then Vivaswan Manave Praha. Surya then passed on this knowledge to Manu, who was the first human. And then Manu gave it to Ikshvaku, who was his son, and he was also king, Kshatriya. So this is how the knowledge tradition, he said, started with me, and I gave it to the son, and then son to Manu, and Manu to Ikshvaku. And he says here, the same original knowledge, it is the same Puratana Sa evayam maya tevya yoga prokta puratana. The same original knowledge I am telling you today. Arjun, why am I telling you? Because bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam yet duttamam. You are my devotee, and that's why it is very important to be devoted to the Lord, to have His grace in our life so that He can give us this Atma Jnana. And this is a rahasya, it is a profound secret, Uttamam. Uttamam means it's the best kept hidden. It is a kind of a secret which does not get exposed to everyone. Everyone is not eligible for it, everyone does not understand it. But because you are my devotee Arjuna, I am going to tell you, he says. Now Arjuna probably thinks, he has a very innocent kind of a doubt in his mind. And that's what he expresses very simply to the Lord and shows his astonishment. How is it possible, Prabhu? Arjuna uvacha aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvataha. You have been recently born just, along with me. You have been living with me for so many years. I know you so well. But son was born thousands of years ago. How can I understand that you gave it first to the sun at the Adav, at the beginning of this universe? He says, how is it that I can understand this? It's a very innocent question, to which God replies. He says, Shri Bhagavana uvacha bahuni me vyatitani janmani tava charjuna. God says that he shows his Ishwaratva, his Godhoodness, his Sarvagnya, that he is the all-knower, he knows everything, whereas Jiva is Alpagnya, he knows very little. And this is what beautifully described in this shloka. He says, Arjuna, I have taken many, many births. Not only me, you have also taken many births. And all these previous births, Lord Krishna says, Aham Veda, I know. Whereas Natvam Veda, Arjuna, you don't know these births. And that is the main difference between Ishwar and Jiva. Bhagavan, he knows everything, all the births, all the actions, all the karma, all the births of all the beings at one point of time. That is Ishwaratva. And then in the next shloka, Lord Krishna describes his original Tattvik Swarupa. And he says, Ajopi sanna vyayatma, bhutanam ishwaropi san. Even though I am Ajaha, I am unborn, I am never born, and I am avyaya atma. I am, my knowledge, there is no avyaya in my tattva. I don't take birth, I don't take any form. My Tattvik Swarupa is avyaya, avinashi, unborn, ajaha. He says, and I am the Lord of all the beings. I am bhutanam ishwaropi san. But even then, I take the help. Prakrutim swam adhishtaya. I take the nature under my control. Swam adhishtaya, he says. And Jiva is under the control of Prakruti or Maya, whereas Ishwar takes Maya under his control. And then he says, Sambhavami Atma Mayaya. I manifest in this world. It doesn't say I am born in this world. It says I incarnate. I manifest. From my unmanifest state, I manifest in this world whenever I wish. Atma Mayaya, with my own powers of my Maya Shakti. That is how he incarnates. That is a beautiful shloka where he says that how does he take incarnation? What is his Tattvik Swarupa? What is his original Swarupa? And then the next two shlokas, which are very famous shlokas of Bhagavad Gita, often chanted, repeated. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. When does God incarnate? When does it take form on this earth? Whenever there is decay of dharma to protect the dharmi, and abhyutthanam adharmasya. Whenever there is increase in adharma to destroy the adharmis, he says tatatmanam sujamyaham. Then I manifest myself. Lord Krishna says. And then he says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chatushutam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. What are the reasons for the God's incarnation? To protect and nurture the dharmi, to destroy adharmi, and to re-establish dharma. So these are the three main reasons for God's incarnation. It could be just one of them whenever he wants to incarnate or manifest in this world as a mortal form. Sambhavami yuge yuge, I incarnate, I manifest myself whenever it is needed. Yuge yuge does not mean that every yuga he incarnates, because there's sometimes in one yuga he has taken many incarnations also. So whenever it is needed, the understanding is that he becomes from Nirakara to Sakara, from his Nirguna Swarup to his Saguna Swarup, and he manifests and comes in form. And so this is what we need to understand, that what is Lord in his Tattvik Swarupa, how he takes birth. And then next shloka he says, one who understands my incarnations, my manifestations, and also my original Tattvik Swarupa, my original self. If somebody understands completely, then that person becomes free from the cycle of birth and death. He says, Janma karma chame divyam. My births and my actions are all. Birth means manifestations, incarnations, and actions are both divine. Evam yovetti tattvata. One who understands it Tattvik, in a true sense, in its original sense, Tyaktva Deham Punarjanma, whenever he or she leaves the body, whenever they die, they don't get rebirth. Naiti Mameti Sorjuna, but they are Mam Eti, they attain me, they attain moksha. They are lifted, they are liberated from the sansar chakra and they develop moksha. And then in the next shloka, he describes the spiritual journey, the Adhyatmic sadhana, how we can understand Lord truly in his original Tattvic Sarupa, how we can understand so that we can develop or we can get moksha or liberation. He says, Vitaraga Bhayokrodha, one who has conquered their attachments, fear and anger. Essentially, it means that we have gone through this Antakarana Shuddhi, and which is best attained by Karma Yoga, Manmaya and Mam Upashrita. One who has become one with me, with the surrender to me, that itself means Bhakti Yoga, and Bhava Jnana Tapasa, Bhuta, with the knowledge, has become pious with the fire of knowledge, that shows the Jnana Sadhana, and then this person, Madbhavam Agataha, attains my real self, becomes one with me, develops Aikya. So Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Nishtha, Jnana Yoga, all these are important aspects of the spiritual journey to attain the Lord. And then Lord Krishna himself says why most of the people do not yearn or desire for moksha, but they are all within this karma and this world, mortal world. They keep, running around. Why is it? It says, Kankshanta karmanam siddhim yajanta iha devata. People who desire fruits of karma worship different devatas. And Shipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. Because in this mortal world, the results of action, karma phala, is achieved very quickly. Shipram bhavati. Shipram hi manushe loke. So because once we do karma, we get the karma phala. Sometimes, when we work, we get some money. When we do something, we get something. So karma phala, there is instant reward and it is a stula reward. It is visible. Whereas when we go for jnana sadhana, when we go for moksha, the phala, the benefits are not immediately apparent. They take a longer period of time and they are more sukshma, they are more subtle. They are not easily apparent. There is nothing which is because we get a peace of mind, we get ultimate happiness. All these are very sukshma kind of benefits. They are not quick results, and that's why Lord Krishna says that most people don't want to go for moksha, but they are within this karma because the fruits of karma phala are immediately achieved. Shipram Imanusha Loke. Then Lord Krishna describes in the next shloka how Vedic Dharma has been described by me and how he has created all this system, and in spite of creating this system, he is a non-creator. He describes in this also important and a famous shloka, Chaturvaranyam maya srushtam guna karma vibhagashah. I have created this world of 4 varnas, Chaturvarna, according to the guna and karma vibhaga. He says according to the 3 gunas, the sattva, rajas and tamas, and the karma vibhaga means according to the duties of individual beings, not according to the birth. Bhagavan himself says that he has not created this varna, the system of varna based on the birth. It is all the humans who have created this based on the birth, but he has created it based on the gunas and the karma. And he says, even though he says, Tasya kartaram api mam vidya akartara avyayam. He says, even though I am the creator of this Vedic parampara, this Srushti, this Vedic system, he says, you consider me as eternal, as avyayam and non-doer. He says, akarta, vidya akarta. I am the non-doer, I am the non-creator. Even though I am the karta, he says, I am the akarta. So this is something we need to understand, and this subject then again continues. God himself does not have any ego or the doership feeling kartrutva behind his actions, and this is his paripurna gnana, his knowledge. He is full of knowledge, and that's why he is also called Purushottama. And with this understanding that though he is the karta, but he is still akarta by his swarupa. And he says, one who knows this clearly, this kind of my Ishwaratva, that I am the karta but these karmas don't bind me. If somebody knows me like this, he is also liberated from the bondage of karma. The next shloka he says, Namam karmani limpanti name karma phales puha. My actions don't bind me and I have no attachments to the fruits of the actions. Karma phala, I have no spruha, I have no attachment. And in this way, itimam yobi janati. In this way, one who knows me clearly, truly, karma bhirna sabhadyate, he is not bound by his actions, he gets liberated from his actions, he is liberated from the sansar chakra. And he next shloka he describes how the karma gati is quite gahana. It's quite deep, quite difficult to understand karma. He says, karmano yapi bodhavyam. Actions which are vihita in the Vedas, Veda vihita karma, which are described that we should do. Those kind of actions are worth knowing, he says. Bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha. Vikarmanaha are the forbidden actions, which are something Vedas describe we should not do. The nishiddha karma. So these are also worth knowing, he says. Then he says, akarmanascha bodhavyam. Akarmanascha is actionlessness. What is akarma? Akarma in Gita ji context is quite a different terminology. We'll come to it what Lord Krishna means by akarma. Actionlessness is also worth knowing. And he says, Gahana karmano gatihi. The path of karma is very deep. We don't understand mortals like us. We don't understand what karma we do, what karma phala we get, when do we get that karma phala, how do we get it, whether we get it in this janma, in the next janma, when we get it, why something happens to me, for what is the purpose, what are my past karmas because of which I am getting this karma phala now. These are all the questions that we have no control over, and that's why Lord says you accept this karma phala, and this is a karmana gati gahana. So essentially what is the tatparya or the summary of the fourth adhyaya? Karma happens in anatma, in our body-mind complex, but the atma itself is akarta by swarupa, and there is no karma in atma. Atma, the swarupa of atma is a karma, a karta, and that's why Lord Krishna tries to tell all of us that we should do our karma in the best possible way, because he has already said karma yoga is the one we need to do, but at the same time we should be aware about our actionless self, which is our akarta, atma swarupa. That is one which we should be aware of while we are doing the karma. So what is the difference in the way of the drashti, the perception or vision of the gnani and the agnani? Agnani, ignorant people, they are bound by their karma. We keep doing our karma with our own kartrutva, with a pride that we are the doer, I am the doer, and that's why we get bound by the karma. Whereas Gnani is liberated by his karma because he does it without any kartrutva. He does not have any pride or ego. He understands that he is the akarta by swarupa, and that's why he is not bound by this karma. So Gnani, even while he is in the pravrutti or he is in nivrutti, he believes that he is in karma. Whereas Gnani, in spite of being in pravrutti or in nivrutti, he is in his akarma, akarta swarupa, and that's why he is in akarma. The word akarma also means differently for agnani and the gnani. Akarma for agnani means absence of action, basically laziness. For an agnani, akarma means I am just sitting, I am not doing any karma. Whereas for a gnani, even while he is in action, he is in karma, he is still sthit in his atma swarupa, which is akarta. He is aware, he knows this atma swarupa, and that's why it is akarma for a gnani. For a gnani, even karma is akarma. And that is the understanding that we need to develop. That is what Lord Krishna is trying to explain to us. The next shloka says how people like us in the pravrutti marga, gruhastha, householders, how we should live. What is that pravrutti marga gnani? How he should live. It says tyaktva karma phala sangam nitya trupto nirashraya. We have to renunciate the fruits of action, karma phala. And nitya trupto, we should always be satisfied, not seeking more and more, not to have too much of greed. And nirashraya, not dependent on the outer objects for our happiness. And then karmanya bhi pravrittopi, even if we are in karma, even we are in pravritti, even we are in activity, na eva kinchit karoti saha, means we are not actually doing anything, because we do karma, we are not bound to the karma phala, and this is what Lord Krishna wants us to do as gruhastha. And in the next shloka, he talks about the nivrutti marga gnani, the one who is a sannyasi, how he should conduct himself, how he should do his karma. He says, yadrucha labha santushto dvandvati to vimatsaraha. Whatever comes by chance, yadrucha, it comes by chance, accept it as the Lord's will. Dvandvati to, rise above these dualities of the world. Vimatsaraha. Vimatsara is don't be jealous. Jealousy comes because we compare and compete with other fellow beings. And in the Varna Vyavastha, there was no comparison or competition, and that's why all these problems were not there. Samasiddho cha asiddho. So, wants us to become samatva, develop samatva, and then if we do our karma, then krutva pina nibhatyate. Though we are in action, these actions don't bind us. And this is the understanding that Atma is one, but Anatma can be very different. We can do many karma, but karma is the part of Anatma, which may be very different, behind which the Atma Tattva is the same. And then Lord Krishna describes the 12 yagnas, which are very important for our spiritual journey. This understanding of the Vedic parampara, why yagnas were given so much of importance, because yagna was associated with karma, and this karma was more like a selfless karma, that we are giving ahuti, we are keeping on giving, and this is a yagna buddhi that we develop, so that we don't always think about us, but think more about giving and becoming non-possessive. And the second is that sanyama, modulation of the mind, the senses and the buddhi, our intellect, is very, very important. And in this adhyaya also, Lord Krishna, in the 5th and the 6th adhyaya also, he talks a lot about the sanyama, the modulation, and this is also a type of yagna in the minds of Lord Krishna. So the first yagna he describes is the Brahma yagna. This is also a very famous shlok, which is chanted before eating in our parampara. Brahmarpanam Brahma Havihi Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. So here the meaning is to see Brahma Buddhi, develop Brahma Buddhi, to try to see oneness everywhere, Brahma everywhere. Lord himself says that Brahma Arpanam, whatever objects we are arpana, what we are giving are also Brahma. Havihi, what materials we offer in the yagna is also Brahma. The fire, Agni, in which all these offering is done is also Brahma. Brahmana Hutam, one who is giving the offering is also Brahma. And whatever fruits we receive, Gantavya, whatever we receive as karma phala or the fruits obtained after the yagna is also Brahma. So ideally understanding is that the wise sees oneness in everything. That is the buddhi that we need to develop according to the Lord. The second and the third yagna that Lord Krishna describes is the Gnanendriya Sanyama and the Vishaya Indriya Sanyama. So essentially, according to the Lord, Indriya Sanyama is also a type of yagna for us. The 5 Gnana Indriyas, they are, Shotradin Indriyananya Sanyamagnishu Jupati. So we need to sacrifice all these 5 Indriyas into the Sanyama, the modulation of the fire of balance. And Shabdadin Vishaya Ananya, all the Shabda and all the other Vishaya, Indriyagnishu Jivati, means they should be sacrificed or into the fire of balance. So this is basically Indriya Sanyam, which helps us to become more independent from Satchanda to Swatantra, and this helps us to become really happy in our life. And this happiness, real happiness in our life, can only be achieved by balance or modulation of Sanyama of the Gnanendriyas and the Karnendriyas. Then Lord Krishna describes other yagnas, the 5 other yagnas, the Dravya Yagna, the Tapa Yagna, the Yoga Yagna, Ashtanga Yoga, Swadhyaya Yagna, daily scriptures reading, and Gnana Yagna, finally the Vedanta Gnana, Shravana, Manana and Nidhyasana. And then he says Yataya, one who is serious for his change, who keeps on putting in efforts to improve, and Sanchita Vrata, who is firmly resolved to make a change in his life or to develop the spiritual angle. Then for this person, all these yagnas will be very important. Finally, he says the Gnana Yagna, the knowledge yagna, is the best yagna, Sreshta, because all the roads lead to the Gnana, and finally the moksha or liberation occurs only by Gnana, because Gnana is the only final, ultimate and the Sakshat sadhana for moksha, whereas all the other sadhanas like karma, bhakti, ashtanga yoga, all the other things that we Buddhi Yoga, all the other Raja Yoga, everything, all the others are complementary sadhanas, Sahayak, Japa, and all the other Bhakti sadhanas are all complementary sadhanas. The final sadhana is the Gnana, and that's what Lord Krishna himself says. How this Gnana, this knowledge, can be understood. In the next shloka, it's also a very beautiful shloka. Lord Krishna describes who is the ideal student and who is the ideal guru. Initially, he describes the 3 characteristics of an ideal student. Tadvidvi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So this knowledge of the Atman can only be known by somebody who is pranipatena, who bows down, who salutes or has an obeisance, who has respect towards the Guru, who becomes vinamra from inside, also is accepting the greatness of the Guru and surrenders to the Guru. Pariprashnena, who asks the right questions to the Guru based on his doubts. And Sevaya, who does service to Guruji. Guru Seva is also considered to be a big Seva. And then Lord Krishna describes Who is that ideal guru? Out of joy, upadekshanti te gnanam. Out of joy, the guru will give the knowledge of the self, the Atma Gnana, to this Shishya who is eligible. But that guru also is Gnanina, who is knowledgeable, and that guru is Tattva Darshina. Tattva Darshina means not only the guru is knowledgeable but also is self-realized, means has assimilated this knowledge in his or her own self and is able to live the life also accordingly. So that is an ideal guru, Gnaninaha, Tattva Darshinaha, and this is the ideal student. In the next 4 shlokas, Lord Krishna describes the benefits of the self-knowledge, destroys all the attachments, all the sins, the papa, all the actions, the karma nasha, and destroys all the impurities, ashuddhi or mala nasha. So he says, by knowing this knowledge, yajgnatva na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava. There will not be any moha, no attachment again. Arjuna recently had the attachment. And that's why he says, Yena bhutanya sheshena drakshatyatmanyato mai. With this understanding, you shall see all the beings in yourself and in me. So you'll have a abhed ekatva buddhi. Next shloka he says, this gnana also destroys all the papa. Api chedasi papebhya. Even if somebody is the biggest sinner, he has done a lot of papa in his life, sarvebhya papa kruttama. But sarva gnana plavenaiva. With a boat of this knowledge, that is like a plavena, it works like a boat. Brujinam santarishati. He can swim across this ocean of sins, he says. So this gnana is very, very, very pious. Next he says, it destroys all the actions also. Karmanasha, this knowledge, just and gives an example of, how the fire of knowledge will burn all the karmas, just as a well-lit fire burns the fuel. Yathai dhansi samidogni bhasmasat kurute arjuna. Gnanagni sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. Just like a well-lit fire burns the fuel, in the same way this fire of knowledge will burn down all the karmas. There is no karma remaining after this person gets realized. He may be doing some karma by his virtue of his sahajta, his gnana sadhana, but ultimately there is no kartavya karma for this gnani. And malanasha destroys all impurities. Nahi gnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. It is the most pious thing, the self-knowledge, and it is to be achieved tatvayam yoga samsiddhin kalen atmani vindati. It has to be achieved by our own efforts, and it takes kalen atmani. Takes a lot of time. Atmani vindati. We have to achieve this in our own purified inner self where gnana happens. And so it also tells us that spiritual path is not an easy path. It is time consuming. We have to keep on doing this yoga sadhana, the karma yoga, bhakti yoga, shravana, manana, nityaasana, and it takes a lot of time to develop purification of our own self before Atma Jnana can happen in our own self. The next shloka is also very beautiful shloka which shows who can gain this self-knowledge, who is that sadhaka, and what kind of 3 requirements he needs to have to understand to gain this knowledge. Says Shraddhavan labate gnanam tatpara sanyatendriya. He should be Shraddhavan. One should have faith in the Guru, in the Shastra and in the Ishvara. He should be tatpara. One must keep trying, constantly trying all the time. Sanyatendriya. One should have a control of all the senses, all the indriya sanyama. Then only gnanam labdva param shantim. By knowing this knowledge, he will get the eternal peace. Achirena digachati. Instantly, he will develop this. And this eternal bliss is nature of our own self, the Satchit Ananda Swarupa Atma, and this Ananda that we get, the eternal bliss, is our own Swarupa. And who does not benefit from this kind of, who is not able to gain this kind of a knowledge? Ashraddha Dana and Sanshayatma, somebody who is a doubting mind, somebody who does not have faith, he is not the person. Agnascha Shraddha Danascha Sanshayatma Vinashrati. One who is ignorant, has no faith, and who keeps doubting, does not achieve the ultimate goal of life. Nayam lokostina parona sukham sanshayatmanaha. And this person who is a doubting person never becomes happy, neither in this world or in any other world he can become happy. And that's why what we need to do, he gives a message, he gives a call to all of us, tasmat ajnana sambhutam, ritstam gnanasinatmanaha. Therefore, the ignorance, the root cause of all these doubts, which is present in our heart, gnanasina, with the help of the sword of knowledge, kill all your doubts. Lord Krishna tells us, Chitvainam sanshayam yogam atishto tishtat bharataha. By practicing yoga, stand up, get ready, O Arjuna. and attain the final truth that you need to understand. So with this, we come to the end of the 4th Adhyaya, and we now start the 5th Adhyaya. So Adhyaya 1 to 4, Lord Krishna has already described about the moha that Arjuna developed, the vishada, the dukkha he develops because of the jnana that shows the adhikaritva for Atma Jnana. And that is the purpose of Atma Jnana. It takes away all our ajnana, miseries, dosha, dukkha, moha, everything. And Atma Jnana Updesha that happens in the 2nd Adhyaya, followed by Karma Yoga, Sthita Prajna. 3rd Adhyaya is the Karma Yoga Vistara, and the 4th Adhyaya was the Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Now let's look at the 5th Adhyaya, which is called the Karma Sannyasa Yoga, where initially Bhagavan explained the difference between the Jnana Sankhya Yoga and the Karma Yoga. And then from the 7 to the 12 shlokas shows or describes the attributes of the Sankhya Yogi and Karma Yogi, and then talks about the Jnana Yoga and the Karma Sannyasa, and finally the last 3 shlokas are the link to the 6th Adhyaya. 6th Adhyaya is the Dhyana Yoga, and these are the 3 shlokas which link the 5th and the 6th Adhyaya. So the 5th Adhyaya starts with Arjuna's question, and this question of whether I should do Karma Yoga or I should go away, become a sannyasi and renunciate, what should I do? What is the right thing I should do? A similar question Arjuna asked at the beginning of the 3rd Adhyaya to Lord Krishna, that you are telling me that, Tatkin Karmani Ghore Mam. In this, you are telling me that Jnana is Shreshta, but now you are telling me to do Karma. It's a similar question, whether to do Karma or I should become a renunciate. And Arjuna's question, Sannyasam Karmanam Krishnam Punar Yogam Chashansati. You praise renunciation and again Karma Yoga. Yachreya etayorekam tanme pruhi sunishchitam. Out of the two, tell me one which is most beneficial. When Arjuna asked the same question in the 3rd Adhyaya, Lord answered, Lokesmin Devida Nishta Pura Prokta Mayanaga Gnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. That there are 2 Nishta that I have described in this world. For the Gnana Yogis, it is a Gnana Nishta. For the Karma Yogis, it is Karma Nishta. It means that Arjuna's the doubt is still not clear. What should I do? And he says, tell me one thing that is most beneficial. So Bhagavan answers, says, he praises Karma Yoga. He says both are good, but Karma Yoga is better than Sannyasa. Shri Bhagavana Uvacha, Sannyasa Karma Yogascha Nishreyasa Karavubhav. Both renunciation and Karma Yoga are good. They are Nishreyasa Karavubhav, means they can cause Shreya, Kalyana or upliftment to you. Both of them are good. But Tayostu Karma Sannyasa, Karma Yoga Vishishyate. He says, but if you see out of both, if you see Karma Yoga is Vishishyate, it is a better, it is superior. For people like us, Adhikaritva is for Karma, and that's why Lord seeking the Arjuna in his mind, Adhikaritva, he is the person who is a Kshatriya, he is in the war battlefield. Obviously his Adhikaritva is for Karma, and that's why he says Karma Yoga is superior to the renunciation. Then he says, he praises and equates Karma Yogi and the Sannyasi. He says, Gneyasa Nitya Sannyasi Yona Dveshti Na Kamshati. What is more important is to have no Raga Dvesha and know that that person is a Sannyasi. May it be Karma Yogi or may it be a renunciate, but it should be without Raga Dvesha. And Nirdvandvo Hi Mahabaho Sukham Bandhat Pramuchyate. By rising above the strong likes and dislikes, remaining Samatva, he says he would get the eternal bliss. So that is a real sannyasi in the eyes of the Lord. So this kind of understanding, the right understanding Lord wants to give us, whether to become a Karma Yogi or to run away, become a sannyasi. He says, both, he says, Sankhya Yogo Pruthak Bala, Pravadanti na Panditaha. Knowledge, the Sankhya Yoga and the Karma Yoga. He says, give different fruits. This is said by Pruthak Bala, immature people, Bal Buddhi, jo immature hai, those people say this. Pravidanti na Panditaha, not the knowledgeable or the wise people don't say this. Ekam apyastita samyaga ubhayor vindate phalam. If one is determined on one path, then the final result that is achieved is the same for both Karma Yogi as well as for the Sankhya Yogi. It says final result is Gnana se moksha. And in the next, he again makes this very clear. What is the goal? He says, Yat Sankhya prapyate sthanam tadyogairapi gamyate. What the Sankhya Yogi achieves by knowledge, the same stage is achieved by Karma Yogi. So it appears that these are two different paths, the Karma Yoga and the Gnana Yoga, but actually they are not the same path. The Karma Yoga also takes turn. Once Antakaran Shuddhi is achieved, then one also has to do the Gnana Sadhana. and this path becomes one, and ultimately it's only the Jnana part which leads to the moksha. So the goal is achieved only by the Jnana sadhana. So though this appears like two paths, the ekam sankyam cha yogam cha yah pashyati sa pashyati means if one knows well that both knowledge and karma yoga achieves the same place, the same destination is reached, the same goal is reached by taking both either of these paths, he says that person knows the truth. Truly, pashyati sa pashyati means he knows the real vision. That person has the correct vision. And then he says that some people may want to take karma tyaga very early, wants to retire, wants to take karma tyaga, though he is not mature, not ripe, the fruit is not ripe, and if you still pluck the fruit, what will happen? It will be very painful. He says, Sanyasastu mahabaho dukkham aptuma yogatah. For one who has not practiced karma yoga, his raga dvesha has not become shitila, samatva is not achieved, his mind is not sanyama, and then he takes renunciation, he does sannyasa. That is very painful. Dukkham aptuma yogatah. It will be very, very painful, miserable. His life will be miserable. Yoga yukto munir brahma nachirena digachati. But a muni who has practiced karma yoga, he has shithilified, he has nullified his raga dvesha, developed, achieved samatva, and then he takes renunciation. In no time he will do jnana sadhana and he will achieve liberation or moksha. So that is what is the Lord's vision. And now in the next shloka he describes the entire link of the spiritual journey, the Adhyatma sadhana from karma yoga to the moksha. How it starts, he says, Yoga yukto vishuddhatma. With the yoga, with the karma yoga, one purifies the mind. He becomes vijitatma. He achieves victory over his inner self. Jitendriya, develops control over his senses. And sarva bhutatma bhutatma bhavati. He manifests himself, sees the oneness in all the souls, ekatva, darshana. And such a person, kurvannapi na lipyate, even while he is in action, even while he is in activity, even while he is doing karma, he does not get bound to the actions, remains akarma. His karmas don't bind him, they don't, so I am not doing anything. In the next two shlokas, Lord Krishna says the vision of this Tattvavitta Mahapurusha, the wise person, the enlightened one, how they conduct themselves in this life. So they are doing all this karma. They do Pashyan, Shrunvan, Spushan, Jigran, Ashnan, Gachan, Swapan, Swashan. They do all these activities, but they know that Kinchit na karomi. I am not doing anything. I am the Karta, Atma Swarupa. And in the next shloka also it says Pralapan, Visrujan, Gruhan, Unmishan, Nimishan, Api. All these activities they keep doing everything, but at the same time their understanding is Indriyani Indriyartheshu Vartanta iti dharayam. Their understanding is very clear that all these are thus the sense organs are engaging into the objects. Indriyani Indriyartheshu Vartanta. That is that understanding. I am not doing anything. I am Akarta Atma Swarupa. I am the observer. I am the seer. All this is happening like a play that is happening, and that is the understanding. So the difference in the vision between the wise and the unwise. The wise identifies himself or herself with the Atma and is free from this Karturtva Abhimana, Akarta Swarupa, which is Atma. And that's why he is free from the karma bandhana, because he understands that karma happens in anatma. It is the guna, guneshu vartanta, and indriya and the artha, the vishaya. All this karma happens. Whereas the ignorant identifies himself with his anatma, the body mind complex, and has a kartrutva, has a doership feeling, and that's why he always gets bondage with the karma. So that is the difference we need to understand. In the next shloka, Lord Krishna describes how karma yoga leads to inner purification. He says, Kayana manasa buddhya kevala irindriyairapi. The karma yogi performs selfless actions with the body, mind, intellect, with only his senses. And yogina karma kuruvanti sangam tyaktvatma shuddhaye. Without attachment, this yogi performs all these actions. And the main purpose of doing this karma yoga is for inner purification of the mind. This selfless karma is to be done only for this purpose, the inner purification, so that we prepare ourselves to achieve or to realize this Atma Jnana that can come only when the inner mind is completely pure, and this purity can only be achieved by Karma Yoga. Practice, next shloka he says, practice Karma Yoga to achieve the peace of mind also. Yukta and Ayukta. What is the difference between these two persons? Yukta means who has self-control. Yukta karma phalam tyaktva. He is renounced the results of the action. The karma phala has been renounced by this yukta person. And what is the phala he develops? He gets shantim apnoti naishtikam. He develops eternal peace. He achieves eternal peace by just renouncing the fruits of action. And ayukta. Ayukta means a person who does not have proper control over his self. Kamakarena is he only acts by his selfish desires, keeps on doing work in this world without proper understanding. And what is it that he achieves? Phale sakto nibadyate. He remains attached to the karma phala and the bondage of the karma, samsara. It goes on and on and on and on and on. In the next shloka, the Jnana Prakaran starts. He says, Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi. How this wise person, he conducts in this world, Navatvare Pure Dehi Naiva Kurvanna Karayan, renounces all the actions of the mind, lives in this body which has 8-9 chidra, all the different gates through which all these karma indriyas will accept all the knowledge of the outside world. But though he does everything, he knows that he is not doing anything. Neither he is doing anything nor is getting anything done, and he lives happily with eternal bliss, Sukham Aste. That is the understanding of the wise person. Na kartrutvam na karmani lokasya srujati prabhu. So kartrutvam, the doership, the ahankar, the karmani, nor the actions, na karma phala sanyoga, attachments to the fruit, neither happens in the atma. God does not do lokasya srujati prabhu. Prabhu does not do all this. All this happens in the swabhava pravartate. It happens in the anatma. So this is the correct understanding of the wise person. And then Lord Krishna praises the atma jnana, this knowledge, and gives an example of sunlight. He says, Jnanena tu tadaj jnanam yesham nashitam atmanaha tesham adityavach jnanam prakashayati tatparam. One whose ignorance is destroyed by this atma jnana, just like aditya, sunlight, adityavach jnanam, the self-knowledge illuminates. It illuminates his eternal consciousness, prakashayati tatparam. Everything is illuminated by this swayam prakasha, this atma. And the next shloka, he also describes the spiritual journey of the Jnana Sadhana, which he has already said previously, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, and the goal is the Brahma. That Parayana is Parayana to the goal, always determined, and all the impurities are washed away by the self-knowledge, and then that person achieves the liberation, does not have to come back on this earth. That is the freedom, that is the liberation, that is the moksha. And that is what the entire spiritual journey is all about. In the next few shlokas, Lord Krishna explains the drashti, the vision of the wise person, the enlightened person. Once he gets this knowledge, he has realized what is his vision. He sees oneness everywhere. He has a samatva drashti. He says oneness in the wise and the humble Brahmin. He has a same vision in the cow, elephant, dog, or an outcast. Essentially, they see the tattva behind all these different forms, shapes, because they don't see the shape as it is. They understand the true nature of what is behind this, and this samatva is the main sadhana, and samatva is also the goal. So the true vision that we all need to develop is the sarvatra samatva darshana, everywhere to see the same, and that is the true victory of our own self that will give us the eternal bliss or the happiness. And for the seeker, it's not just the journey but also the goal. We should avoid giving undue importance, mahatva buddhi, into these worldly objects. And with this, we have to develop some kind of a vairagya and develop equipoise, samatva in all the events or situations in our life. That is what Geeta ji teaches us. And this entire spiritual journey is for obtaining this samatva. So, with this samatva buddhi, one who has no attachments, where after what we like, na prahashet priyam prapya, no dvijet prapya chapriyam. Even if we get something that we like or we don't become too elated, too happy. Or if we don't get something what we want, we also don't get too upset. So that is the samatva buddhi. Sthira buddhira sammudo brahmani stitaha. Means that this wise person is firmly established in the self-knowledge or the Brahma Jnana. So our sadhana is to go from all the Bheda Buddhi to Abheda Buddhi, to go from all the differences to the oneness, and to Purna Samatva. From sadhaka we have to go towards become a jnani. That is what Lord Krishna hints all of us. So where is this real happiness that we yearn for all the time? And we keep looking for it outside in the sense objects. But is it outside or is it inside? Lord Krishna answers this question. Bahya sparshesva saktatma vindatyatmani yat sukham. Seeker who is unattached to all the outer happiness, the objects which are going to give us happiness, obtains his eternal happiness in one's own self, and this can only be achieved by meditation. And that Sabrahma Yoga Yuktatma Sukham Akshaya Ashnute, that balanced person who is firmly connected to the divinity, and he experiences this everlasting Akshaya Sukha, everlasting happiness, this divine bliss he achieves because he is connected to his own self, and this happiness persists all the time. It is not, it comes and goes. And in the next shloka, Lord Krishna says how the sense gratification is depreciated, the outer objects which make us feel the illusion that it gives us happiness, but actually Lord Krishna says they give us pain. He says, Yehi sansparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adhyantavanta kaunte nateshu ramate buddha. The pleasures obtained by the contact of the senses with the objects, they are the cause for miseries only, because the moment we start getting an illusion of happiness, we keep indulging it in more and more, and this overindulgence always gives us the pain in the long run. And he says, Oh Kaunteya Adhyantavanta, see that they are transient, they are evanescent, they come and go. Nateshu Ramate Buddha, the wise do not indulge in these sense objects, they don't indulge in this sense gratification, because they understand that it gives me pain over the long run, and they are all transient. With this understanding, we can develop vairagya towards these worldly objects. And what it is that is the biggest obstacle for us, which doesn't allow us to be truly happy. And this is where Lord Krishna describes again that these Shaknoti Haiva Yah Sodum Praksharira Vimokshanat Kama Krodot Bhavam Begam Sayukta Sasukhi Naraha. That person is truly a happy person who is able to control in his life before the body comes to an end. Kama Krodha Vega Udbhava. The forces of the desire and anger. The force of desire and the force of anger is so huge, it's very difficult for us to control. But Lord Krishna says that if somebody is able to control this in his lifetime, that person is a yogi, is a yukta, is a yogi that is the dear to the Lord. And again, it describes his attributes of the wise, who is anta sukha, his happiness is inside, his arama, all his peace and pleasures are inside, and antar jyoti, his light of knowledge is also inside. The spiritual journey is all about going within us to see and look for this happiness inside rather than yearning outside. And that finally, he says, the culmination of the Sankhya Yogi is coming to the end of the Adhayaya. That person who is devoid of this desire, anger, who is constantly putting in efforts, his mind is also balanced, and he has known his own Atma Swarupa, his own self. This is the person who achieves his eternal peace. Brahma Nirvana, that is the eternal peace he achieves, and by this he completes the 5th Adhyaya. And the last 3 shlokas of the 5th Adhyaya are the link to the 6th Adhyaya, which talk about the 3 aspects of meditation: the dhyana, the dhyata, and the dhyaya. So these are the 3 shlokas. Initially, first Lord Krishna says how we have to control our thoughts, our mind, and focus our mind to perform meditation. He says, Sparshan krutva bahir bhayyan chakshush shvaivantaro bhuvokko pranapanau samau krutva nasabhyantara charino. Keeping all the outer objects outside bahir bhayyan. Don't think about the outer objects when we sit in meditation. He says, and focus at the center of the eyebrow, chakshush shvaivantare bhuvoho, and keeping the prana and the apana, keeping our breath in balance. We have to do meditation. He says about the dhyata meditator, how he should be. He should be yatendra mano buddhi muni moksha parayana vigatecha bhayo krodo yasada mukta evasa, whose mind, senses and intellect are controlled under sanyama, whose vigatecha bhayo krodo, whose life is also free, desires and anger and fear is gone. Such a person only can do proper meditation. And finally, at the last, he says, we have to understand the dhyaya, the goal. What is that goal? That Sopadik Dhyana, God himself describes by knowing me as the Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam, the beneficiary of the Yagna and the Tapa, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Lord of all the beings, Surudam Sarva Bhutanam, friend of all the beings. And if somebody knows me, that I am a friend who does everything for all the beings without any expectation or reciprocation. And if somebody knows me like this, he says, Gnatva Mam Shanti Mruchati, he achieves the eternal bliss, that is the Aikya, that is the Moksha, that is the Samadhi, and that is the Dhyaya of the Jnana Sadhana, the Dhyana Sadhana also. So with this we come to the end of the 5th Adhyaya, and we now start the 6th Adhyaya of Sri Bhagavad Gita. The 6th Adhyaya is the Dhyana Yoga. It is a very beautiful Adhyaya. It's also called the Atma Sanyama Yoga, because meditation is not possible without the mind restrained, Atma Sanyama, Sharir, Mana, Indriya, Chitta, Ahamkara, everything has to be under Sanyama. So this is part of the sadhana that has been described from the 2nd to the 5th Adhyaya. But to assimilate this in our, once we hear, we understand this, we need to assimilate this in our life. And for this, the Vedantic meditation, which is also called Nididhyasana, is very, very important. And this is what Lord Krishna talks in this 6th Adhyaya, that whatever we have heard by Shravana, but still there are so strong Viparit Sanskara, which are called Viparyaya. And this also have to be neutralized. And this can only be neutralized by the Dhyana Sadhana, the meditation. The body also has to become quiet, still, and the mind also has to become very still and quiet in meditation. And this is how Antakarana Shuddhi, Jnana Sadhana, Atma Jnana, Ajnana Nivrutti and Moksha is the link of the Adhyatmic Sadhana. The 6th Adhyaya begins with the Lord's words. He talks about first the importance of Karma Yoga for meditation. He says, one who has done his Anashrita Karma Phalam, Karyam Karma Karotiyaha. One who has done his duties, the Kartavya Karma well by living attachment, so the Karma Phala Buddhi, and done with Nishtam Bhava Prasada Buddhi, such a Karma Yogi, he says, Sa Sannyasi Cha Yogi Cha, Na Niragnirna Chakriya. Such a Karma Yogi, he is truly a sannyasi, he is truly a yogi. Both perform Tyaga, but in the eyes of the Lord, this is a true Karma Yogi, and not who has given up just actions, who has become a sannyasi, Niragnirna, who has become a Vividishu sannyasi. He is not a true yogi, he says, but one has to do this sadhana, karma phala tyaga, develop samatva, and do a lot of antakarana shuddhi. That person is truly a sannyasi. Then he says, there are not two ways. Both these ways that he has described are the same. He says sannyasa and the karma yoga, what has been described so far, what the doubt Arjuna had in the 3rd and the 5th Adhyaya, the first shloka. Lord Krishna is now going to give the final answer to this in the next shloka. In this shloka he says, Yam sannyasam iti prahu yogam tam vidhi pandava. Know that the sannyasa and the karma yoga both are the same mark. So it appears that these are two different paths. But naya sannyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kashana. By just living, one has not left behind the binding desires. One cannot become a yogi, even though that person is a karma yogi or a sannyasi. They have to renounce the desires. That is the key thing. And in this 3rd shloka of the 6th Adhyaya, God gives a final answer to this dilemma of Arjuna and clearly shows who is eligible for Jnana and who is eligible for Karma. And this puts an end to Arjuna's dilemma. It's a very beautiful shloka. Arurukshor munir yogam karma karana muchyate. Means for a muni or for a seeker who is desirous to ascend on the path of yoga, who is arurukshaha, who is desirous to ascend on the path of yoga, for that person, karma karana uchyate, karma yoga is the means to achieve the yoga. But for a person who is yoga rudhasya, who is already firmly established in yoga, tasyeva, shama karana uchyate, for that person becoming quiet, shama, karma nivrutti, dhyana sadhana, all this is the means to achieve the ultimate salvation. So essentially Bhagavan describes this, and he says, also in the next shloka, he gives the 3 attributes. Who is the yoga ruda? How does he know that this person is a yoga ruda? And he says 3 things. Yadahi nendriyartheshu anushachyate, means there is no attraction in the sense objects. Na karma swanusachyate, one who has no attachment to the actions, that signifies the restraint over the body. Sarva sankalpa sannyasi, one who has renounced all the worldly desires that determines our control over our mind. That person is a yoga rudastadochyate. That person is already called, that is a yoga rud, is ascended on the path of yoga. In a sense, Lord wants us to have complete indriya sanyam, mana sanyam, and control over our body. If we have this complete control, then we have developed yoga ruda, and for this person, one shama karana uchyate, we can go into the dhyana, jnana, sadhana. Till that time, we have to aruruksho, we have to be in the karma. And in the next shloka, which are 2 or 3 very beautiful shlokas, he says, Uddhare datmanatmanam, natmanam navasadayat, means elevate yourself by your own self. And here he shows us the importance of the efforts we have to do as a seeker, as a sadhaka, to become yoga ruda. All this is not just by God's grace, but it is our own efforts that will help us to become yoga ruda. He says, Uddhare atmanatmanam, elevate yourself by your own self. give, do your Atma Krupa in such a way. Atmana na avasadaye. Don't let yourself ruin or down. Don't give negative thoughts to yourself. Be, stimulate yourself, motivate yourself, inspire yourself, be positive. He says, Atmaiva yatmano bandhuhu. You can be your own best friend. Atmaiva ripuratmanaha. You can be your most enemy also. And in the next shloka, so this he shows the responsibilities of the seeker, the Atma Krupa, which is very, very important on this path. Ishwar Krupa, Guru Krupa and Shastra Krupa is going to help us. All this grace is going to help us, but ultimately only when there is Atma Krupa, all this grace will bring the fruits in our life. Atma Krupa is to walk on the way that is shown to us by our Guru, by our Shastra. It is our own efforts which we walk on this way with persistence, constantly, with a lot of patience, because it takes a long time and we need constant perseverance to on this path, to walk on this path, to develop, to go on this journey. So when Lord says Atma Krupa, Atmanyam Atmana Uddharet Atmanatmanam, he means Atma Krupa means two things predominantly: Atma Vishwasa, that is our self-confidence that I'll be able to do it, whatever I am accepting, I will do it, and Atma Sanyama, I have a complete self-control over my own self. That is what it means. And then he says, for whom mind can become the best friend, or for whom the mind becomes the best enemy. He describes here, Bandhur Atmatmanastasya Yenatmaivatmana Jitaha. So this mind-body complex is a friend for one who has achieved victory, who is Jitaha, victory over his body, mind and intellect. Right? For this person who has a self-control, the mind becomes our friend. Anatmanastu shatrutve vartet atmaiva shatruvata. But one who does not have this kind of restraint, the mind becomes one's own enemy, because it gives us the wrong signals. And that's why this sadhana, prayatna purvak, samatva, sadhana and samatva is very, very important. Gnana vijnana truptatma kutasto vijitendriya. Here again it describes what is the how we can be satisfied in wisdom and our own realization. For a Vijitendriya, for who has conquered his senses, and one who is in he has a Samatva Buddhi, Samabuddhi, that person is truly a yogi, he says. And this kind of Samadarshan is not just in the non-living beings, but also in living beings, in all our friends and our enemies, our friends and foes, in all the saints and the sinners. If we can develop this kind of a sameness of vision, then Bhagavan says that person, Sadhushvapi Chapapeshu Samabuddhir Vishishyate, that person is a unique person. We should try to see guna in everyone, not dosha. See the same Atma Tattva in all, that we are all the same in all the beings, and that is what we need to do. And then from the 10th shloka, there are some important instructions Lord Krishna gives for meditation. In the 10th shloka, he says how important it is. By contemplating on the Atman, we have to sit in isolation. Yogi yunjita satatam. Satatam means we have to constantly do this. Atmanam rahasistitaha. We have to contemplate on our Atma. It says, Ye kaki yada chittatma, by keeping our mind under our control, not wandering around, nirashi, without any expectation or desires, aparigraha, by becoming a non-possessor, we have to sit in meditation. And then in the next shloka, he describes the outer preparations for dhyana, for meditation. He says, Shuchau deshe pratishtapya stiramasanamatmana. In a clean place, position yourself, keep the same place. The seat must be steadily established at one place. We should do meditation all the time. Natyuchritam nati nicham jailajina pushottaram. Not too high. The seat should not be very too low from the ground level. And one should use the cotton on the deer skin on the grass, so that it is not too soft, not too hard. We are able to sit for a prolonged period of time. The next shloka says, steady the mind and put your goal and have inner purification. It says, Tatraikagram manah krutva yatachittendriya kriyaha. By sitting on this seat, we should focus our mind on the goal for the meditation. Upavishyasane yunjat yoga atma vishuddhaya. And by bringing to halt all the thoughts and minds, actions of our sense and mind, yatachittendriya kriyaha, we should practice this yoga of meditation for the purpose of purification of our inner self, atma vishuddhaya. And this is to change the false identification of the viparyaya. So this is the main purpose of doing for inner purification. That is the main purpose of doing this meditation. In the next shloka, he describes the body posture during meditation. He says, Samam kaya shirogrivam dharayanna chalam stiraha sampreksha nasikagram swam vishashchanavalokayan. He says, by keeping the back, the head and the neck in one straight line, by keeping our posture and the body very steady and focusing the center of our eyebrows, the Ajna chakra, and by not seeing anywhere else. Vishashchanavalokayan. Don't see anywhere else. Close your eyes. And by this, how we should practice the meditation. We should start with maybe 5 or 10 minutes, but then gradually we should go up to 30 or even 45 minutes, sometimes even 1 hour. But the yogis, the Siddha Purusha, they can do for 3 hours at a stretch, and that is called Asana Siddhi. In the next shloka, Lord Krishna describes the condition of the mind, Prashantatma Vigata Bihi. The mind, one should be having a quiet mind, Vigata Bihi, free from fears, established in the sense control, by restraining of the mind and by concentrating on me. He says, by keeping me as the final goal, a yukta, integrated personality, sits in meditation. In the next result, next shloka, he describes the benefits, the result of the dhyana sadhana, what happens. In this way, if the yogi, yunjannevam sadatmanam, yogi niyatamanasah, yogi in meditation, by keeping his mind under control, continuously engages in Atma Swarupa, what happens? What does he benefit? What does he get? Shantim nirvana paramam matsanstha madhigacchati. He gets eternal, achieves eternal peace. Param shanti, he gets matsanstham adhigacchati, achieves my own Swarupa, which is Atma Swarupa, is the Ananda Swarupa. That is also the Ananda Swarupa, is also of the Jiva. That is the understanding that he gets. And then in the next shloka, Lord Krishna again describes that how our entire lifestyle should be balanced to go deeper into meditation. He says, Nyatyashna tastu yogosti nachai kanta manashnataha. One who eats too much and one who eats too little, he is not able to meditate. Nachati swapnasilasya jagrato naiva charjuna. One who sleeps too much and one who keeps awake for a long time is also not able to meditate. We need to balance our entire lifestyle to do that 1 hour of meditation in the morning, and who is not able to do this entire lifestyle will also not be able to benefit from the meditation. Again he says, who will most benefit from this meditation? Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu. One whose food, activities, his actions, all are balanced. Yukta swapnava bodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. One who has adequate sleep, at least sleeps for 5 to 8 hours. For such persons, meditation will take care of all the miseries and he will get all the benefits of meditation. The Madhyam Panthi, the balanced lifestyle, is what Lord Krishna wants all of us to do. And what is the state of mind in the climax of meditation? He says, Yada viniyatam chittam. One whose mind is completely under control. Atmanyeva vatishtate. Nispruha sarvakamebhyo yukta ityuchate tada. He remains unattached to all the worldly objects by vairagya and remains steady in the Atma, withdraws his mind from the Anatma and takes it into Atma. That person is called a Yukta Yogi according to the Lord. So what we need to do is Nispruha Sarva Kamebhyo, all our desires from Anatma we have to withdraw and put it into the Atma. Atmani eva avatishtate. And this is the abhyasa, this is the study, this is the practice that we have to develop of Vairagya and getting more focus and concentration. And the next shloka, Lord Krishna describes this climax of meditation and compares it with a upama of a lighted lamp. He says, Yatha dipo nivatasto nengate sopama smruta yogino yata chittasya yunjato yogamatmanaha. Just as a lighted lamp which is without air. Of course, there is a small area from where the air is going, but it is protected, does not waver. It is very, very steady. Similarly, the yogi who is by controlling the mind, he meditates. He is also flame of light, is very, very steady. He is meditating on himself, and this is what we need by constant practice. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. So this way the yogi becomes niruddha chitta, is stilled mind. His mind becomes very still by the practice of meditation. And with this, Pashyannatmadi tushyati, he becomes pure intellect and he remains completely satisfied in his own self. And then what does he get? What does he achieve? This yogi feels the inner bliss superior to the sense pleasures. He says, Sukham atyantikam yattata buddhigrayam matindriyam. He achieves this eternal bliss which is not experienced, which is experienced in his own purified mind and intellect, but which cannot be achieved by the sense organs. Atindriyam. It is not achieved by the sense organs, and that he is achieving, this kind of a yogi in the high-end states of the meditation. And what is the great benefit of this Atmalabha, knowing of one's own self? What is this? After achieving this Yam Labdva, Chaparam Labham, Manyate Nadikam Tata, after achieving this, nothing further needs to be achieved. You understand that I have achieved everything, I don't need to achieve any other knowledge. Yasmin Sthito Na Dukkhena, Gurunapi Vichalyate. After being established in this Atma Jnana, one does not get perturbed by any kind of pains or miseries in the life. That is the main advantage, main benefit. Lord says, there is all success, there is no failure, there is all profit, there is no loss in the world. And then Lord Krishna describes what is it that you need to know as yoga. What is this yoga union? He says, Dukkha Sanyoga Vyoga. Vyoga of the Dukkha Sanyoga, that union with the miseries, that is an illusion for us. And this Tam Vidya, you must know this. He says, you should know this Tam Vidya, Dukkha Sanyoga Vyogam. That is Yoga Sangnitam, that is Yoga. Nishchayena Yoktavyo. Understand this very clearly with a firm resolve that it is my duty. Yoga Nirvinna Chetasa. Nirvinna means make this yoga of meditation as your habit. Do it with a lot of enthusiasm without getting tired. Make it like your habit in your life, that meditation. Do a firm resolve that this is necessary for my progress, my upliftment. And then Lord again starts where is the first step. We will all try, but we must know where we have to start. The starting point is Indriya Sanyama. It says Sankalpa Prabhavan Kaman Staktva Sarvana Sheshataha. All the desires arise out of this imagination, Samyak Kalpana, that these outer objects will give me happiness and they will be useful to me. This needs to be renounced completely during meditation. Leave all the desires outside of the mind. And it says Manasa Ivendriya Grama Muniyamya Samantata, by controlling all this mind and the group of all the sense organs, the 5 Jnanendriyas and the 5 Karmendriyas from all the sides, we should then sit in the meditation, and Lord Krishna gives us solace, telling us that progress happens very, very slowly. Keep trying, Shanai Shanai Uparamed, Buddhya Dhuti Gruhitaya. Slowly withdraw your mind with firmness of intellect. Again, the mind will go, but again, withdraw your mind and make a firm resolve. Atma Sanstam Manah Prutma. Remain firmly engrossed in my Atma Sarupa. Nakinchit Apichintaye. Don't think of anything else during the time of meditation. So this is what we need to do. Withdraw all our vrittis from Anatma and Neti, and we have to go towards our Atma, the pure consciousness, Sakshis, and gradually from Sakshi then we have to go towards Sarvavyapaka and then understand the Aikya. So this is how Lord Krishna says that mind will keep on wandering in meditation. So what we need to do, Manah Chanchala Astiram, mind Yato Nischarati. Mind is very, very agile, it's very unsteady. For whatever reasons, it is going out, it's going to the outer objects. For whatever reasons, because of our previous sanskaras, not the impressions of what we have done, spoken, done in the previous day. Lot of reasons why mind will wander. Tata niyamyat etata. From there and there, get hold of it. Atmani eva pashannaye. Put it back in your Atma Sarupa. Do whatever you need to, but keep doing and keep progressing in this meditation. And finally, what is the benefit that will get yogi? He says he will become one with the Brahma. He will achieve this eternal peace, and all his impurities will be destroyed. He will achieve the eternal bliss in which the mind and the senses are completely quiet. Prashanta Manasam, which is devoid of all dukkha. That is the final. And in the next 3 shlokas, Lord Krishna describes the essence of the Upanishads, the Mahavakya of the Upanishad, which is called Tattvam and Asi, Ayam Atma Brahma, which describes the Jeev Brahma Aikya, the oneness. The Tvam Pradartha has been described in the 29th shloka, the Tat Padartha, that is the Ishvara Tattva in the 30th, and the Asi, the Aikya Jnana in the 31st shloka. So let's look at this. The meaning of this Mahavakya, we don't have to take the literal meaning. We have to take what is called as a Vachyartha, but we have to understand the implied meaning, which is the Lakshyartha. When we say Tvam, Tvam means I, because the Guru is saying Tvam means we have to understand as Aham, and Aham we understand literally as our own name, form, body, mind and soul. That is how we mix everything. We also know that I am the soul, but everything is mixed. We don't have the clarity that I am just the soul, I am the Chaitanya, I am not this mind body. That clarity is not there in most of us. That Atma and Atma has become mixed, and then we have to then distill it, and that Vivek is needed to see clearly what is Atma, what is Anatma, and to make a firm resolve that I am the Lakshyartha of I is that I am Chaitanya, I am the Atma, and Tat Paramatma, when we see what the Vachyartha is the God, and God we see many different forms and names of the God, but ultimately the Lakshyartha behind the Tattvic Swarupa, the original self of the Lord, is also Chaitanya. So with this Chaitanya, if we see the soul, that is the same, that is just the one. With this I can see the Aikya Buddhi. With this Upadhis we cannot see Aikya Buddhi. We will see all the differences is because of the Upadhi, but because of the Chaitanya Swarupa, there is oneness. In the 29th shloka, Lord says how we can see this oneness in all these many things that we can see. He says, Sarva Bhutastam Atmanam Sarva Bhutani Chatmani Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma Sarvatra Samadarshana. One who knows that within all the beings there is his Atma, and he sees that all the beings are in Atma, then this is the vision of the Yukta Yogi. He sees Sarvatra Samadarshana, he sees oneness everywhere. So this is how what we want, this is what Lord wants us to develop, that it's not just the I, it's the Sarva Vyapak Chaitanya, and this is the essence of the Upanishads, experienced by the Mahapurushas, that Bhagavan is everywhere, Sarvatra, see God everywhere, and this is the vision where we need to develop. In the 30th shloka, he says, Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati. One who sees me everywhere and sees everything within me, tasyaham na pranashyami sachame na pranashyati. He always sees me and I am very close to him. Sarvavyapaka Bhagavan Chaitanya is what we need to see. In the 31st shloka, he says, Sarva bhutastitam yo mam bhajatya kattva astitaha sarvatha vartamanopi sa yogi mai vartate. See me in all the beings, praise by being one with me, this enlightened wise person. He always lives in me and I also live in him. So this is the final message of the Upanishad that Lord Krishna gives. And then he says, Atma Pavyena Sarvatra. Why the wise people are extremely compassionate? He says, Atma Pavyena Sarvatra, because they see their own self everywhere in all the beings. And with this they feel the same pain and pleasure that others have. And that's how they are so much of compassion, they are so much of karuna. And such a great yogi is the greatest. So yogi paramo mataha. Bhagavan says, in my opinion, such a yogi is the greatest yogi who has a compassion by seeing his own self everywhere in all the beings, and that is the main purpose of this. And finally, then Arjuna asks a question to the Lord that, what you are mentioning, this yoga, yoyam yogastvaya prokta samyena madhusudana. It says, etasyam na pashyami chanchalatvat sthitim stiram. I cannot see this firm state of this yoga. Why? Because my mind is very unsteady. I cannot steady my mind. You are saying that all this control is necessary, but all this the mind is a problem. Chanchalam imana Krishna, he says, mind is very agile, very powerful, very obstinate, keeps wavering. Therefore, and it's like vayo iva sudushkaram. I understand to control the mind is very difficult, almost like controlling the wind. He says vayo. And everybody wants to have a quiet mind to meditate, but sometimes it is very difficult. It's our own experience. And then Sri Bhagavan Vacha, he says, answers this query question of Arjuna. He says he accepts that yes, mind is very restless, it is wavering, it is difficult, but it is not impossible. He says, Asanshayam Mahabaho Manotukri Durnigriham Nigraham Chalam Abhyase Natu Kaunteya Vairakyana Chakuruyate. He says, no doubt, controlling the mind is very difficult, but he also shows two solutions how we can control our mind. He says, one, Abhyasa, constant practice, keep on doing it. And second, Vairagya, don't see the importance of all these worldly objects. Come back and be non-attached to all these worldly objects, Vairagya, and put your mind inside me, and then you will be able to see me everywhere. And then he says, Asanyatatmana, one who doesn't have any control over self, for him the Jnana Yoga is difficult, but Vashyatmana, who is fully under self-control, who keeps yatata, who keeps trying, Shakyo Bhaktuna Upayata, for that person Dhyana Yoga is possible. He says, this is iti me mati, this is my opinion. Keep trying, Arjuna, indefinitely, constant practice, change your habits of the mind, focus on the goal and keep doing this meditation. And finally then Arjuna says, okay, then if somebody is doing this practice, keeps on practicing in this yoga, but if he either dies or he loses this yoga or gets diverted from this yoga marga, what happens to him? What is his gati? He says, what is his onward gati? That is the question Arjuna poses to the Lord. Kam gati Krishna gachati. What will be his gati? What will he develop to him? And whether he will be destroyed by like the clouds which get destroyed, or what will happen to him, or whether he will go into downward gati or adhogati. And Lord Krishna answers, he says, Lord Krishna, you are the only one capable of removing my doubt. This is the doubt that I have. He shows this immense faith in Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna answers, gives him solace. O Tat, O my father, O my Lord, O my brother, don't worry. Durgatim nagachati, never goes on a downward journey. Whatever you do on this spiritual path, nothing goes in vain. There is nothing that can be destroyed. All this remains with you. And then onward journey describes that what happens. You think that he is a yoga brashta, but nothing happens. He'll be born in the next janma in a Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe. He will be born in a pious family, prosperous family, where he can start his yoga sadhana. He says, or else the other option is that he may be taking birth in a Dhimatam, Kule Bhavati Dhimatam, family of yogis or learned Brahmagyanis, and from this again he can start his sadhana. Something will become nimitta. How does he start his onward sadhana? Lord Krishna describes in this shloka, Tatratam Buddhi Sanyogam Labate Pauvadahikam. Because of all his past sanskaras, impressions, some nimitta comes, and then again this next onward journey starts, and he will then reach his goal. So with his purva abhyasena tenaiva, with his previous sadhana and his desire to know the jignasurapi yogasya, his desire to know the truth will make him transcend from worldly actions prescribed in the Vedas by developing Vairagya. So spiritual progress needs efforts, many lives, he says. Lord Krishna describes very clearly, Aneka Janma Sansiddha, it efforts of many such lives, Tata Yati Param Gatim. Finally one gets moksha. It is not just that in this life everybody can get moksha, and then is coming to the end of the Adhayaya, and he praises this yogi who is superior to the ascetic, the tapasvibhyo dipo yogi, gnanibhyo pi vatodikaha, karmibhyo Chadiko yogi, tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. Yogi is superior to a ascetic, tapasvi. Yogi is also superior to a knowledgeable, who is panditya, who knows a lot of knowledge he has. Yogi is also superior to karma yogi. He says tasmat yogi bhavarjuna. Here yogi means atma sanyama yogi, because Bhagwan is talking about atma sanyama or the dhyana yoga. He is showing that this is it's a very good sadhana. Of course, the meaning of this is not that one sadhana is the best. The samuchya, comprehensive sadhana is important. One should take help of everything. Tapa, knowledge, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, atma sanyama yoga, everything is important on this path. And at the end he says, who is the best yogi? He says, yogi namapi sarvesham madgate nantaratmana. The best of all yogis is the one who keeps his mind in me. Shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo mataha. He says, who worships me with faith, who devotes to me, who becomes my devotee. Lord says, in my opinion, he is the best yogi. The reason why he is saying this here is that from now onwards, at the end of the 6th Adhyaya, there is a complete U-turn in what Lord Krishna is talking. He will now turn towards more devotion, towards more bhakti. The 7th Adhyaya is also devoted towards his bhakti, and that's why this last shloka he says about, the Shraddhavan Bhajate Omam, the one who worships me with faith, he is the best yogi, he says. And this is a call for us to connect to the divine, to connect to the Lord, to be not only in our spiritual aspect, but even in our worldly life, in our vyavahara also, we need to be connected to the Lord, surrender to the Lord. That is the only way we can be saved from this Maya, which what Lord Krishna himself tells us in the next Adhyaya. With this we come to the end of the summary of the 4th to the 6th Adhyaya. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnah Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.